about your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, I'll give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh yeah, it's time. Let's get to it. Story number 1. The Butler is set to open its new expansion soon. The new $2 million expansion at the Butler Institute of American Art in Youngstown is set to open April 15th with a dinner and reception. Now, the Butler has been in the downtown district of Youngstown since 1919, so this is big for the downtown area. That's why story number 1 made it this week. Story number 2. Norfolk Southern is still a topic of discussion for local people. Now under the spotlight, Norfolk Southern has announced a safety plan that includes improvements for detecting problems that could cause derailments, according to a Mediator report. So they're talking about improving their trains and the safety. Now they have what they're calling the 6-point plan that would immediately enhance the safety of the company's operations. Now, one of the company's employees was reported dead. He had died in an apparent truck accident. That's what got the story in. Now, this is yet another headline showing the pressure that is on railroad companies, especially Norfolk Southern, after this made headlines in Cleveland. So more problems and more news in circulation about Norfolk Southern. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. A bill to prepare students to work. Good luck with that. A bill sponsored by State Rep Nick Santucci is set to provide up to $100,000 to each county to hire job coordinators to assist high school students as they head into the workforce with soft skills and professional training. This is what they want to do, according to a Mediator report. They want to give students the training to make eye contact, stuff like that. I mean, as I said, they're trying to get people motivated to work because everybody's talking about laziness. Now, according to the article, the money will go to each of the state's county educational service centers to hire job coordinators. Now, the focus is to prepare students to work, which many employers have complained about for years when it comes to finding good help, even small business owners. So that's why story number 3 made it this week, trying to get the next generation to see the importance of work. Big help. Story number 4. More cutbacks in the headlines for YSU. YSU still has an enrollment problem. The university plans to tighten things up with more cuts in the headlines. Now, online enrollment did increase along with graduate student enrollment, but the goal now is to increase activity on campus, especially in the living quarters. Now, money is also a concern when it comes to meeting budget goals. Now, Neil McNally, Vice President of Finance and Business Operations, says that student enrollment is the single most important concern when it comes to the school's budget, and he also says that the next couple of years will be challenging when it comes to finances. The story is still developing. That's why story number 4 made it this week. Story number 5. Health checkup for East Palestine. East Palestine, if you're American. Good old English-speaking American, but they're saying East Palestine, so I'll keep saying East Palestine. Now, according to a local survey, headaches, anxiety, coughing, fatigue, tiredness, and irritation, pain or burning of the skin, these have all topped the list of concerns for some East Palestine residents. Now, thus causing more attention to be drawn to the village after the train derailment some weeks back. Now, this story continues to stay alive because outsiders and analysts will be eyeing these numbers. Now, in the report, only 168 people completed the survey, East Palestine's population is over 4,000, so there's still a small number of people to actually prove things are actually that bad as the town continues to move on. It could just be the weather, who knows, but they say you have to prove if you're making claims. So that's why story number 5 made it this week, because things are still moving along in East Palestine, but there's still a lot of questions on if the train derailment, the chemicals are causing people to experience pain. Big headline. That's what story number 5 made. Story number 6. Housing the poor is still a topic of discussion, local discussions. The homelessness problem and child care problem is growing, folks, if you didn't know. In some areas, most areas, mostly poverty areas. Now, with lack of money and minimal resources, ordinary people are starting to speak out about what appears at the moment to be a hopeless issue. Now, the reality is that America's three classes, the poor, middle class, and the rich, all have totally different lifestyles. This is causing some people to take notice and speak out on such topics locally. Now, how far they can get is what is keeping the story in local headlines. Now, the process of getting out of poverty has become its own culture. These people have created their own system and beliefs, thoughts about poverty, the government. And with this continued decline in Christianity in certain religious sectors, this could turn out to be for the worse, because Christianity teaches to take care of the poor. Some people are starting to believe that the poor should take care of themselves. You know, why should I do this? So that's why story number 6 made it this week. Almost made it to the top 2, taking care of the homeless and the poor. Big headline. Story number 7 in the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Whew, every week I go through a pile of stories knowing that I have my work cut out, but I'm staying busy, staying on the right track, staying informed, and staying positive for you, only for you, doing the research, navigating to keep you informed. Story number 7. LMC's Lordstown Motor Company, their manufacturing halt has taken center stage. Wow. LMC and big headline. Now, the cost to make the vehicles is greater than its selling price. This is one of the sentences in the article on that now has Lordstown Motors local manufacturing in the headlines. This is after the electric vehicle startup stopped production and issued a voluntary recall of its first vehicle. Now, Edward Hightower, president and CEO, even announced in local reports that if the company does not find a partner, the company could pause endurance production this year. That's also. Now, financially, the company experienced a loss of $102 million for the fourth quarter. That's up from $81.1 million over the same 3 months in 2021. Now, in 2022, the company lost $282 million. That's down $410 million the previous year. Now, the company expects to end the first quarter of 2023 on March 31st with $150 million to $170 million in cash and short-term investments outside of Foxconn. So that's what they'll probably have on hand outside of Foxconn. So this is keeping this story alive. This story is still developing because high expectations. People are expecting to get these jobs, and investors are trying to get a return on their investments. So Lordstown Motor Companies, everybody's waiting for some good news. That's why story number 7 almost made it to the top this week. There's a lot invested in that company. Big headline. Story number 8 in the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week. On the St. Patty's Day, the leprechauns and the green men chasing people through the woods. And I'm chasing you with a story. Hey, stop. I got something to tell you. Will you listen to me? Story number 8, city budget alert. Projects are what is keeping Youngstown's budget talks alive. Finance Director Kel Miasak spoke on the general fund to reporters after reporting only $32,470 left that will be left in the city at the end of the year, this year, the general fund at the end of the year. Now, the $3,939,400 approved for lost income during COVID-19 from the ARP funds has yet to be transferred. So this is potential money that could even things out. Now, the goal is to stay in the positive, but according to reports, with so many projects going on, the city will be trying everything to stay away from deficits, so spending cuts could be coming. Income tax revenue seems to be what's keeping financial hopes alive as it grew. They're saying that the budget grew. I mean, well, not the budget, but the income of the city grew 2.4% from last year, which broke a record from, I guess, was from income tax revenue. So from taxes. Now, this is the only time we'll tell how the story develops as they use the ARP money. And it runs out, so the city could be going back into the water fund. Who knows? That's why story number 8 made it this week. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. You're in the media. Me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, it's St. Paddy's Day, and this is supposed to be an Irish holiday, and I think it's a Catholic holiday if I'm not mistaken. But as a child, I used to think that they had this movie out called Leprechaun back in the day when I was growing up, when I was a kid, and this movie made me afraid of leprechauns, and I started to believe that leprechauns were evil until I started growing older. I used to be on this radio station back in Cleveland a long time ago, and there was this show that would come on with this Irish pastor. I mean, he would come on, and I think the show is actually still on the air. He would come on and talk about holy things, and he would talk about his Irish culture. Now, people can think that Irish people are all about drinking and getting drunk, but this show would change my perspective all the time. I mean, I'd be tuned into the radio. So you got to think, coming from inner city, this is what people think, that Irish people are drunk. But every time I'd be driving along, I'd be driving and I'd hear this reverend come on, this pastor come on, Irish brother. He'd be talking about the holy scriptures and Irish people, and it started to change my thinking. We've got to meet Irish ladies, and I listened to this episode. So this changed my thinking about leprechauns and Irish people. And not all Irish people are drunks or get drunk. Listen to this reverend one day if you get a chance. He's on. I believe he still comes on. I think he comes on Catholic radio stations. But the brother is the Irish brother is unbelievable. I mean, he will preach a sermon about leprechauns that will blow you away. Holy leprechauns. Floating on rainbows, passing out gold to the homeless. I mean, this is some serious stuff on St. Patrick's Day. That's my message this week, because not all Irish people in Irish pubs are getting drunk. There's some holy Irish saints out there trying to get people to and be enthused with the good leprechauns. So just like anything else, I guess there's good and bad leprechauns. There's something to think about this St. Patrick's Day when you're watching the parade. There are holy angel leprechauns. Shout out to my Irish brothers. Well, I'm glad I got that off my chest, because all my life I thought all Irish people were drunks. I've come to find out that there are some sober holy ones, because of the Irish reverend that comes on the Catholic channels, the Catholic Family Network. I wish I could sing an Irish song for you, but I don't know any. So let's go waste no time, folks. Let's get to story number one. Public and worldwide aid is a topic of discussion. One BBC headline asks why UN aid took so long to arrive. More than 4,500 people were killed and more than 8,700 injured in northwest Syria. Now, in Turkey, at least 45,968 people were killed, according to the report. Now, aid concern in Ukraine is also continuing to make headlines. If you see these stories, folks, there is a captured tape of a little girl suffering in these earthquakes. I mean, it's just frightening. But they're saying that aid is a topic of discussion because it took a long time to arrive. The more of these things happen on a global scale, the more you see how challenging it is to tackle these issues. That's why story number one made in this week. Story number two. More border woes in the headlines. More border problems. Americans killed in Mexico is a topic that's been making headlines. And now more border concerns after more than 340 migrants were found in a truck trailer. People are all over the border concerns and the border problems. The migrants were fleeing poverty and violence and paid huge sums of cash to smugglers to get them across the U.S. border, according to a BBC report. This story is really bringing a reality check to many Americans right now, and that's why story number two made it this week. Big hit. Story number three. What is the fight with the police all about, and is it really your business? One demonstration in Atlanta puts more attention on police business and what others seem to be making their business. After 23 people were arrested in what authorities say was domestic terrorism after more than 100 protesters dressed in black breached a proposed police and fire training center site in Atlanta Sunday. Now, the USA Today report goes on to say that they burned vehicles and set off fireworks towards officers. Recent police media stories due to interactions with the public is what's keeping police news in top headlines. That's why story number three made it. Story number four. Is a tax increase coming? USA Today reports that Joe Biden's budget proposal will include tax increases. Oh boy. Mainly on wealthy Americans. House Republicans say that they will not raise the debt ceiling unless Biden agrees to spending cuts. Now, if Congress does not raise the borrowing limit, the United States Treasury will run out of money to pay the government's bills. That includes the people who are retired on Social Security and people who have government jobs probably won't get a paycheck. So the pressure is on because Americans are not happy when they don't have money. Things happen. The story is still developing. That's what story number four made in this week. Well, folks, those are the top four international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top four. So don't you go anywhere. You're at the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. It's method8inc.com. Method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to this top four international headlines and developing news stories that made this week, folks. I don't know what is happening with the money, but I do know that there's a lot going on, and if people were not paying attention before, some people are starting to pay attention now because word is getting out that something is happening in America, and good people are starting to speak out about issues that they have been wanting to speak out for a while, and that is that they are not getting ahead. And now let's talk about raising taxes and messing with Social Security. This is all starting to become frightening because when you start messing with people's money in America, you asking for some problems, and everybody is taken from the government, but the government obviously is crying for help. And they're basically saying like, hey, You may think that we got it going on, but we need some tax money. And if we can't tax the poor, we can't tax the middle class, and we can't tax the rich, then we got to find a way to recoup some of this money. Folks, it's getting pretty interesting out here. I decided to go sit out on the front lawn and put a coin out just to see who would give me some money. And ain't nobody giving away nothing. Nothing. At least to me, to the poor, to the middle class. So that means people's pockets is tight. This could be getting changed. I got this new song I want to sing. It's called Give Me Some Money. Goes a little something like this. The government is my former employer. That's where I receive most of my blessings. When I go to church on Sunday, they want money from me. They not paying me. So technically, the government is my friend. The government is my friend. Woo! Shout out to the government. Thank you for all the meals. Thank you for supporting me through the hard times. Thank you for giving me a check. Government, you are not my enemy. You are my friend, no matter what everybody says about you. Glad I got that off my chest. Woo-wee! Story now. Let's get to it, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 5. The gun story. Glad I got that off my chest. Guns continue to be the central focus of attention, folks, after a Fox News report on how new data compiled by the FBI showed a historic high number of gun retrievals were ordered as a result of failed background checks between 2020 and 2021. Now, data on guns has increased every year in just about every category. Mass shootings and the increased number of guns in circulation is what got this story in. That's why story number 5 made it this week. Story number 6, COVID-19. Its response and its ripple effect is worth debating and talking about. Folks, a new study has found that 25.9% of parents lied about their kids' COVID-19 test results so that they would not miss school. Now, the Fox News report shows how the shutdowns and COVID-19 protocol really caused a lot of people to break the rules. Not just the people, but the government also. The response to COVID-19 is still highly debated, and some people continue to say that the government overstepped their boundaries. Either way, the damage has been done. That's why story number 6 always made to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 7 of the top 2 international headlines and developing news story that made it in this week. No, folks, I am not Chris Rock. I am not Will Smith. I am just an ordinary little man trying to spread the gospel of news and the gospel of mediation, peace, love, and happiness. So I hope everyone will take the time to reflect on all the good things as we go along life, because my perception is optimism, and I hope that perception does not change. Let's get to these top 2 international stories, folks. Story number 7. Will we ever get ahead? Like I said, I'm an optimist, so an optimist will believe that we will get ahead. A realist will probably say, hell no! And a pessimist say, nah, it's over, Brian. With inflation and consumer confidence in the headlines, a growing number of people feel that they just cannot get ahead. This is becoming all too common as data shows that household credit card debt has climbed, and a growing number of Americans are still living paycheck to paycheck. Continued talks by the Fed to raise interest rate is what got the story in, because a lot of people just don't seem to be getting ahead. That's why story number 7 was made to the top this week. Big headline. Story number 8 and the top international headline and developing news story that made it this week for you to keep you informed, folks. If a bill collector called me the other day and said, Brian, where my $400 at? If you don't pay up, it's on. Well, I'll be calling that bill collector and I'll be telling them that Show me some love. I'm doing the right thing. I'm not hurting nobody. Don't be so aggressive. So I advise everybody that if you don't have the money, stay on the phone with the bill collector. Spend some time with them. And tell them to have a good day. When I get the money, I will give it to you. Everybody has bills, folks. Story number 8. That's why probably so many people are going crazy to get the money. Story number 8. Does America need the world, or does the world need America? Speaking of bills, the world owes a debt to America. And does America owe a debt to the world? This is the question. Folks, there's been a lot of talk about America's role in the global arena lately. And America has had the same enemies for a long time. But some new claims have some analysts scratching their heads. Now, one Fox News report says that China's current president has accused the U.S. of suppression and containment of China. How is that? Now, Russia has also been in headlines blaming the United States for the war in Ukraine. Now, after the U.S. flew nuclear-capable B-52 bombers over the Korean peninsula, North Korea has even made headlines threatening the United States. Now, these recent headlines leave a growing outlook on how the world perceives America and why some global issues seem to be getting out of hand. That's why story number 8 made it to the top this week, because the world, what would it be like without America? It's a big, big question. Everybody talks, everybody hates, everybody may criticize, and America may have a lot of enemies. But what would America be? What would the world be like without America? Big, big headlines, folks. Well, those are our top local headlines and international headlines that I made this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just a mediator, the man in the media, the man in the middle, navigating your stories to keep people informed. Well, folks, if you want to show us some support here at Method, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor the program. Folks, I am out of here. I'll be back next week looking through over 200 or more stories just to keep you informed. And I hope everybody has a good St. Patty's Day if you do celebrate it. Shout out to all the Irish folks. I'm out of here. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator. E. Brian West. Peace.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.